I was looking again on Facebook, and it had Saul Alinsky's rules to create a socialist society. And so I'm going to kind of read through that, and maybe we can get an understanding of just what the hell is going on. And it's pretty simple, actually. It's How to Create a Socialist State by Saul Alinsky. Well, as a free American that believes in freedom and liberty, and my ability to live my life and to make the kind of money I want and to spend it on the items I want, that seems pretty radical. And you're just like, oh, one of those kook whack jobs, Saul Alinsky. Why would they even write that? Well, in his list here, it says there are 8 levels of control that must be obtained before you are able to create a socialist state. The first is the most important. So here's a person out there that wants to create something that is diametrically opposed to most Americans. Anyone that wants freedom and liberty, actually, not just in America. So number 1 is healthcare. Control healthcare and you control the people. Number 2, poverty. Increase the poverty level as high as possible. Poor people are easier to control and will not fight back if you are providing everything for them. That sounds kind of diabolical, actually, to where you're going to set up something that actually creates poverty so you can control people. That just doesn't even sound normal thinking to an average independence-loving person. Number 3, debt. Increase the debt to an unsustainable level. That way you are able to increase taxes, and this will produce more poverty. So now they're starting to hold each other up here. Gun control. Remove people's ability to defend themselves from the government. That way you are able to create a police state. I'm just going to read through them, and then maybe we'll talk about them a little bit, because this really is just mind-numbing, actually. Welfare. Take control of every aspect of their life. Food, housing, income, everything. So number 6 is education. Take control of what people read and listen to. Take control of what children learn in school. Think Common Core. Religion. Remove the belief in God from the government and schools. And number 8, class warfare. Divide the people into wealthy and poor. This will cause more discontent, and it will be easier to tax the wealthy with the support of the poor. Now, this is Saul Alinsky, so it's not really old, but I'm sure he gets a lot of these steps or guidelines from the Communist Manifesto, because you can see this is not a 100-year-old document. But when you look at how communism throughout history and control of people throughout all eternity, you can put this list together pretty easy and go, oh, well, this is how you need to do it to accomplish this. So this is a more revised list by Saul Alinsky of what history has taught us to this point. So there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. You already know how it works and how you can make it better by learning from the past. So to me, I'm reading this thinking, this is really what, most of our government is trying to do right now. And just hearing them be read triggers something in each one. You're like, holy crap, that's happening. Oh, wow, I saw that just yesterday. So we can look at it and go, okay, we know Obama is a Saul Alinsky kind of guy. He studied Rules for Radicals. He said it in the campaign. He's a community organizer. This is all pretty well known. I'm not, saying Obama's the devil and it can't be proved. No, these are things he said. So I can take him at face value and take his word for it. Pretty easy. A guy says, I hate you, I want to kill you. You take their word for it and you stand guard. You're like, holy crap. You might not be preemptive and attack first, but it's coming. So, Obama has said these things. So that's not hard to understand. Now we know that, there's been the Times article on we're all socialists now. You got, Bernie Sanders, running as a socialist in the Democrat Party. That doesn't mean all Democrats are socialists, but all Democrats do believe in these 8 things that I've read by Saul Alinsky. So once again, if we put on our judge's robe and we look at this evidence, we can determine that this is important to the case at hand. And we can filter it that way by looking at both sides of the argument and looking at the overall case. And then we can take off the judge's robes and put on our jurist hat and determine, what this all means. And this is why it's so important to be more aware as an American than just to run around bathing in the avalanche and the flood of basically, I don't even know what to call social media. I mean, is it cannon fodder? No, because that's, something your enemy might throw against you to distract you. This is just people posting things going, oh, look at this. Oh, look at that. Here's a kitty. Here's a dog. Here's a unicorn. Here's a rainbow. But it shows you, I guess, the pulse of America. If you're a judge and you're allowing jurors to be selected, you might or might not want certain people on the jury, especially if you're a lawyer for the defense or the prosecution. You go, we don't want that person there. We do want this person there. So once again, we have to determine, who do we want and what information are we going to accept? Because it's out there and it's loud. It's like white noise. When I worked in commercial buildings that had PA systems, for days they would run these white noise tests and they would go around balancing the sound and making sure it mixed at the ear level for certain rooms and stuff. And it was just a static, annoying actually, for working in it. That's why I'd wear headphones and crank up my stereo, because I just didn't, it was so much noise. But from that noise, they could gather, what do they call that? The sound bouncing off the walls, where it's mixing, how it's going to sound best, to where if you're standing in this part of the room, which is, that room's purpose, where will the sound be best? How to angle the speakers and the cones and the cone shape. So the people blasting this white noise knew how to use it and what it was for. To me, as an untrained audio expert, just thought it was annoying. And that's, when you look at social media, it's a lot of white noise. And through that, you can determine where it's hitting, how it's being perceived, how it's being heard. And don't think your enemies, people that put together a list like this, aren't using that information also. Now, you can't change anything, and shutting down Facebook and social media would just be stupid. They would do it, the enemy, because once they get to where they want to be, then naturally freedom is not their end goal. So then they could take that away from you, and then you'd sit there and go, but why? I'm a good little lackey. Why are you taking away all my toys? And in kind of preparing for some of this, I looked at a lot of socialist websites. I thought, well, that'll probably get me on some watch list. No, it'll probably get me email from the Democrat Party now. But looking at it, I was like, they paint this really nice picture of what socialism would look like. And it started out with, basically going to work every day, and you have to get up and your alarm clock goes off, and you got to buy a ticket to get to the job, and you have to, all these things. And I couldn't even read it because it was just such spin, because, they can paint a crap sandwich to look like a hoagie, but it's still a crap sandwich no matter what. That's how it's going to taste. So they make it sound like in a socialist society, you don't have to get up and go to work. No, we've seen all throughout history that once it becomes socialism, then you still go to work every day. You might not have to buy a ticket because transportation is provided by the state, but you still get up and go to work. And really, socialism is just industry run and controlled by government. Now, it slides into communism, which is the top tier of just screwed. But socialism is kind of like the first marketing strategy to where you can go, look, you don't have to worry about your alarm clock going off anymore. And You don't have to worry about buying a ticket so you can actually get on the bus so you can go to work. Because if you can't afford a ticket, how do you get to go to work? So it's the first phase in the marketing strategy. And as I read all this, I thought every one of these things just sounds so warm and fuzzy. But the reality of it is it doesn't change the fact that you as a person still will be going to work. You will still need to eat. You will still need to do all these things. You might not have to worry about where you get the food because now it's provided by the government. But maybe a lot of my listeners don't remember some of the things that I saw growing up, where there were lines in Russia where people had to stand in line to get toilet paper. They didn't have to worry about buying it, but they couldn't get it. And so in a socialist and in a communist government, it's not organic anymore. It's like a sterile greenhouse if you look at it like an economy as nature. It's all in the greenhouse, and the only things that grow in that greenhouse are what the government plants. So the government didn't put a high enough priority on toilet paper, so you stood in line for it. And you weren't free to just go buy 100, 200 rolls at Costco so you would have it, because there wasn't enough of it. And the reason there wasn't enough of it, because all these people that didn't have to buy a ticket to go to work really didn't give a damn if they showed up to work or not, because their livelihood wasn't getting better. They were just literally a cog in the wheel and in this machine. So you just go and they say, you're now a toilet paper worker. And you're like, well, yeah, but I have a master's degree in this. And they're like, you work on the toilet paper. Don't worry about it. We're going to feed you. So the initiative to do better goes away. And I've talked to people that have lived in socialist countries. And if you read of any of Ayn Rand's books, mainly the one where she tells a story about a woman growing up when Russia slid into communism. Before that, they had a vibrant economy. People were free. They were a great country. And then as they slid into, and as you read the book, you just see that the tyranny, and you see these 8 things that Saul Alinsky talks about happening one at a time, and how their life goes from a wealthy family to dirt poor, doing things that are illegal now in the black market to just have enough money to buy a little extra. Because in a communist or socialist society, it doesn't mean there's not people of wealth still. You know, they will talk about how bad wealth is. But the people that shove it down your throat are going to be highly wealthy people. They're going to have everything they want. So one part of the book, she's talking about just getting some perfume because the people in France have the greatest perfume. And all her friends in college are like, oh, how decadent. You know, why would anyone even want that? Those French are so evil. But there was still a desire for that. But the rich people in Russia had perfume. They had lipstick. They had all this stuff. So it's a great book, and you'd want to read some of those things that aren't just presented by the other side, because that's where your judge's hat has to kick in and your jury hat and go, that sounds really great, but the deeper I dig, the more I find out this is just a cock and bull story, or whatever that expression is. So what I was thinking is, if you look at these things, I mean, you can read them and go, oh, that sucks. But this is their game plan. Now, if you have a battle going on, you know, it would be so much easier if you knew what they were doing. And usually that's why, like even in pro football and stuff and in baseball, they have these signs, like the catcher will do these signs. And even if people are watching, they don't know what they are, because you don't want to give away your strategy to the other side. Well, we have their strategy. They want to control healthcare. And if you control healthcare, you control the people. You control whether they get treated or not if they're sick. Now, trust me, the elite will always be taken care of. But you, the cog, they don't care. Once you reach a certain age of production and you're no longer valuable to them, it's like a worn-out tool. Well, you just get another one. And they can do that. You can't. You know, you wear out your tools, you better rebuild them unless you got a lot of money. So this is their game plan. Poverty. Increase poverty levels as high as possible. Poor people are easier to control and will not fight back if you are providing everything for them. Do you see that happening? Of course you do. Now they blame it on, the system, and they talk about their war on poverty. But if you study the results of that war on poverty, it's a bigger misery and failure than the war on Vietnam. And they call that a debacle. So this war on poverty is just imaging. It's just to show you they care while they're doing it. They act like they care. And the reason we're creating poverty, because they don't call it creating poverty, they go, the reason we're fighting poverty is because look how horrible this is. And then they're making it possible through other programs for poverty to become greater. And it's actually quite maniacal if you can look at it and go, these are the rules and the things that they will do to bring about a socialist state. And this is their game book. And all we have to do is look at it. So if you look at healthcare, it was shoved down our throat by an illegitimate group with demon pass or whatever they call that. It wasn't ratified by the states. It's not constitutional. We've allowed it to become the law because we as jurors were too busy maybe trying to stay out of poverty to pay attention. And so through this flood of trash that they shove and pour and the white noise going on, it's very hard to focus on a key issue because we don't know what they are. Because with healthcare, they threw so much mud in the water that most Americans, even that do pay attention, couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. But the bottom line was we have a lot of poor people, which they created, that go to the emergency room because they can't afford a doctor. And so that cost, because they don't pay the bill then, because they're poor, gets passed on to the other patients and people and to the taxpayer to pick up the tab and balance the ledger, I guess. So what we're going to do is mandate that everyone has insurance, even the poor person. So when the poor person goes in there, he has an insurance card, which is paid for by the taxpayers. So nothing changed. It's just the verbiage. So it was hard to see what was happening until it was too late. So you're not going to fix it always by understanding unless you're an active participant. Now, it's become quite hard to be an American nowadays because it used to be pretty easy. You just hung out and you did your work and the things you loved and what you enjoyed. And then these people we had elected did their job that we told them to do. Well, now they have these schemes, see, like these 8 things that they want to do. And we talked about poverty. It's horrible that their whole goal, this is their how to create a socialist state. Increase the poverty levels as high as possible. Poor people are easier to control and will not fight back if you are providing everything for them. Well, if someone told me, I'm gonna burn your house down because it's easier to control you when you don't have a home, you think, what a dick. They just said it. This is what our plan is, to increase poverty. So then their number 3 thing is debt. Increase the debt to unsustainable levels. Well, you think, well, they're doing that. Why would they do that? That way, you are able to increase taxes, and this will produce more poverty. Oh, so all this about the debt ceiling and all that, and increasing taxes, is so we can create more poverty. It's no other thing. It's not all the minutiae you see and read about in social media. It's to create more poverty. So I don't need to have big debates on social media about this guy said that and that guy said that. And why do you think they're doing it? They just told us we're doing this to win the game. Here's our game plan. Now, number 4 is the key one. And this is their sticking point, because if America didn't have the Second Amendment, we wouldn't be having this conversation. There would be no social media. There would be no podcasts. There would be no bloggers. No free speech and open conversations. So gun control. Remove people's ability to defend themselves from the government. So they understand why gun control, why the Second Amendment's there. It's for free patriots to defend themselves against the tyrannical government. And it even says it in their writings. Gun control. Remove the people's ability to defend themselves from the government. That way you were able to create a police state. So all this talk about mass shootings and background checks and a national registry and all that stuff has nothing to do with the safety of your children or mine. It has to do with a police state and the fact that you can no longer fight against your government. Now, if you have been even slightly self-aware or aware of history at all, even if you're young and you just barely became aware, Hitler created gun control. When he took all the people's guns, then he rounded Jews up and killed them. He didn't do it ahead of time because everyone would have fought back. Everywhere you see misery and you see socialist states and you see this crap, there is gun control laws. Not just the stupid little laws that we have. No, massive gun controls. If you're caught with a weapon, you are arrested and disappeared and put in prison. They don't want you to have any guns. They have them, but that's for your protection. And then once they got you there talking about whatever they want to talk to you about gun control, like, oh, how important it is to have background checks because we could save so many lives. But all the laws and all the shootings and all the people and all the guns involved were pretty much purchased legally through all these checks and balances that didn't work. That's just, on gun control and how they've always used it. And you can't do you can do all the other 7 things in this list, but you can't spring the trap as long as the populace is armed. Because, no matter what issue we talk about in social media, there's an overwhelming majority that something should be done about healthcare, but it shouldn't have been done the way they do it. We've had all of the discussions on poverty and debt. So in spite of what the white noise is telling us, if people are armed and they try to spring the trap, a lot of people are going to get shot and there will be a revolution, and they won't win because they don't have enough people, and all their people, all their lackeys, they don't believe in guns either. So we outnumber them. So this is their key sticking point right now, but they're working on it. You can see it constantly, and that's why we can't give it up. And then, number 5 is welfare. Take control of every aspect of their lives. So when they say they're talking about you and me, their lives, all the plebes, food, housing, and income. So once again, this is happening and it's part of their game plan. So you got welfare. They've laid it out right here. We're going to take control of every aspect of people's lives. And you can see how well it's worked in some of the poorer neighborhoods where they're run by these liberal agendas and stuff like Detroit and Chicago and the projects and all that. Now, I'm not against helping poor people and giving a handout. But once you turn on the welfare faucet, you're not helping that person anymore. And in fact, you're hurting people that are truly in need because you're giving the money away in other areas to where it should not be given away. If you have 10 people and they all get $1 from you because that's all you can afford to take care of, and you find out 5 of them are abusing you and just laughing at you, then you stop giving them $1 and you give the remaining 5 $2. Now you've really helped people. See, so it's not that anyone, no matter who you are, Republican or Democrat, we all want to help people. The way that they want to go about it maybe is opposed to us, but as long as you're helping people, then you're not going to get much of an argument out of me. But no, when they say the word welfare, what they mean is take control of every aspect of those people's lives, food, housing, and income. Just take control, not to help them, but to take control. Education, take control of what people read and listen to. So, wow, what does that mean? Take control of what children learn in school, what they think. Well, if they took control of everything you listen to, aren't you listening to this? Right now you choose if you're going to listen to Rush Limbaugh or NPR. You're free to choose what you listen to, the podcasts you download, the programs you watch, the shows you get entertainment from. These are all choices you get to make. Well, what they're saying is, no, we're going to control what you read and listen to. So if you're an avid reader, could you read the books you read now? They had book burnings in countries that became socialist and communist. Do you think that was just because they wanted some heat and they were all cold? No, the government came along and said, you can't read this. Now, if you've never watched the movie with Andy Garcia about Cuba, I think it was The Lost City, It was one of the saddest movies I'd ever seen. It's about a family that lives in Cuba before Castro, and then Castro rises to power, and it slowly starts to descend into socialism. Now, Cuba's a smaller island than the United States in North America, so this happened a little bit more expedited than it would here. But, Andy Garcia owns a nightclub in Cuba. His family owns cigar and tobacco fields, and they're all fairly well off. Well, they don't come and just shut him down overnight in his club. But one day, the People's Army or whoever the hell they are with their red bands on. So they're listening to the band's rehearsal, and the gal that's in charge of this group of Nazis is all I can consider them, Gestapo, says, "You can't play the saxophone because it was created to cause this emotion." And Andy Garcia says, "Well, no, the saxophone has a great history and it creates certain kinds of music." And she's like, "It is illegal to play a saxophone now." And that's it. It's over. The argument's over. If we come here and you're playing a saxophone, you'll be arrested and shut down. So he wants to fight it, but it's like, well, now there's, 20 people with her now become the law of the land. So his uncle owns this big tobacco farm. Well, that becomes socialized, and it shows them taking control of this big family-owned tobacco farm that's been in the family generations, and they make great cigars, which I love a good cigar. And so his uncle ends up blowing his brains out. He just can't handle this. It's like there's no fight. See, they do it in a way to where there is no fight. They take over through regulations and stuff. And even in the very beginning, Castro won. These are my people. They just showed up and told you to stop doing that. Well, you're not just fighting the 10, 20 people that show up. They have the will of the people. Maybe not, but you're now fighting everyone's stupid idealism. So imagine going up against the white noise of social media, and you're thinking to yourself, well, I must just be the screwball because everyone thinks this way. And now here's a guy in an alphabet soup t-shirt and showing up in black Humvees with 10 other people heavily armed. I don't have a gun anymore because they took that, telling me you can no longer grow grass in your yard because it's a waste of water and the people need the water. Now, you might have spent 10 years getting your yard the way you want it, and now they've just told you, you can't do it. If you do, we will shut your water off or something worse. That's it. You're allocated this much. And they can do it because they just showed up with a show of force. So it was a good movie, Andy Garcia, Lost City. Everyone should watch it, and just watch it from a perspective of, what if that was me? What if that was happening in my neighborhood? What could you even do about it? And the reality is not much once it gets to that point. And that's what, why I'm talking about these rules by Saul Alinsky, how to create a socialist state, because it is their game plan. So number 7 is religion. Remove the belief in God from the government and schools. Wow, we see that one happening every damn day. And if you study the cycle of history, you find that from freedom goes great religious beliefs and charity and all that. So it's part of a cycle of history. And whatever your religion is, see, it has nothing to do with Christianity or Judaism or Buddha or Hindu or Muslim religion. The rule specifically says remove the belief in God from schools and the government. Religion. They just want it gone. So it's happening. And then number 8, class warfare. Well, we've seen this, but it's usually initiated by the more liberal thinking folks in the media and politicians, that we need to divide the people into wealthy and poor. Now, they don't come right out and say, well, we're going to take you and put you over here in the 1% pile, and then there's the 3%, and then say, you guys are all rich. If you make $150,000 a year, you're wealthy. And then there's all these poor people over here, because we've created this gigantic poverty level, and they're over here. And now it's you against them. And you just don't like people that are poor. You want to see their children die. Never mind that your side is funding abortion for the poor people to kill their children. Nope, you don't like them. You, the rich guy, don't like them. They're rich, but they never talk about that. So by doing class warfare, it causes more discontent. Here's their rule. divide the people into wealthy and poor. This will cause more discontent, and it will make it easier to take, parentheses, tax, the wealthy with the support of the poor. Well, of course it is. If you've created a poor class or poverty to a level that's not maybe a majority, but a very loud minority, all of a sudden you're trying to argue your point of view, and they seem to have this fake pseudo high ground, you're not going to win. I was reading a thing one time, it's like, why do you think it's a city government will attack an adult bookstore or a gentleman's club? I call them strip clubs, whatever. Well, because it's just harder for that business to say, wait a minute, you're taxing us unfairly. You're zoning us unfairly. You're doing this unfairly. Because what are you going to go to a town council meeting representing the Sin City and show up in your suit and try to be respectful of their beliefs and go, this isn't fair because, we're paying taxes too. We're paying sales taxes. We're paying all this stuff just like any other business. And all the other side has to do, well, yeah, you got plenty of that dirty, Satan's money from all that. And it just makes it hard to defend something that is considered dirty. So when the poor people are all sitting there going, yeah, but we're starving, and you make 10,000 times more than your secretary. Well, how do you fight that? See, the fight had to start years ago when they started attacking capitalism. And there's another great Ayn Rand book in defense of capitalism, and it talks about it and how it's never been defended properly. And so now they seem to have the upper hand. They really don't, because they don't pay taxes. They don't have any money. They can't afford lawyers. They can't afford to defend themselves through marketing and the news and even producing programs and stuff on TV. They don't have any money, but they seem to take this moral high ground with them and go, you can't stand here. And it's like, not only can I stand there, I own the high ground you're standing on, but no one defends it. So this is what, class warfare creates. Now, the reason I'm kind of babbling about this is what's important to get from all of this is, how do we fight for America, the soul of America? How do we keep all these freedoms and liberties that I see on social media seems to be real important with a lot of people? There's as many people that want gun control as don't want gun control. But the argument's going to be lost eventually if enough people don't stand up. Well, how they're doing it is they're taking every single issue, like Saul Alinsky said, you isolate it and then you attack that. So you pick something apart. It doesn't matter if your friend is dressed really well to your party. If you can sit there and pick apart the socks he wore. And now all of a sudden you bring him down a little bit to where he's not as puffed up about how good he looks, and then someone can go, yeah, that belt totally doesn't match. It has nothing to do with the overall issue of the fact that the guy is well dressed. You just start nitpicking, and then you turn that nitpick into the argument. And then you find all the people that are supporting your side of the argument with this nitpick, and you put them over there, and then you give them some moral high ground to stand on, and then you attack the belt, and then you attack the buttons, and then you attack the sleeves, and the length of the sleeves, and the color of the material on the sleeves. And each time you do that, you create a group, and then you give them some moral high ground to stand on, and you fund them with media, and then you start tearing the problem apart that way. So how do they do this? Oh my God, this is such a dire, devastating, dastardly plan. How can we ever fight it? Well, see, the beauty is, before we go into the game, we have their rules. They're right here. This is what they're trying to do. Healthcare. Well, they isolated the issue. There's poor people dying on the steps of hospitals. Well, first of all, I'd never seen anyone die on the street at the steps of a hospital in my 61 years ever. But that's the narrative. And people went, yeah, there's people dying on the steps of hospitals somewhere. No, never. But they got some moral high ground now, because if you say anything about it and defend yourself, you just want to see people dying in the streets. So they took that, and then these doctors are just performing these operations, and it's more profitable to take out someone's tonsils or their appendix. Oh, well, let's take out their appendix. That never, ever, ever, ever happened. I've had my appendix taken out. The doctor didn't sit there and charge my mom to do some other surgery. It didn't happen. Never happened. But you find one anecdotal story that may not even be backed up with facts, and you just shove it into that white noise. And then you just continue to amplify it with the media and all that. And if you don't sit there and look at it as judge, jury, and executioner, you start to believe it. And then you think, well, yeah, something needs to be done. Let's take, because I'm not going to go through every one of these. Let's take taxation, which is part of the class warfare thing, we need to tax people more. So the taxation argument is skin in the game. That's one of their isolated maneuvers. Well, everybody needs to have skin in the game. So if you are one of those people like I am that think that, taxation's fine, it's constitutional, but I actually read the ruling on the 16th Amendment and how it applies to income tax. And you see that that's not the way it's being done now. And you look at it and you go, well, you know what? If I go back even before that, because see, taxation, income tax didn't really happen until in the 20s. Before that, there was no income tax ever. Okay, so if you lived in 1900, you didn't even think about income tax. Now, we still had the Industrial Revolution. We still had the greatest school system in the world. We were doing great as a country. We were stepping up and rocking and rolling without income tax. And nobody back then had any freaking skin in the game. But now, even pundits on the news, even people that I thought I respected go, well, the tax system is a little screwed up, but everyone needs to have skin in the game. See, it's buying into their argument on the other side, saying, well, don't yell at me because, no, I'm kind of with you here. We got some common ground. And then they start getting drug over into that courtroom. The simple fact is, no skin in the game. That's not how the country was set up. But whatever. Now the argument is skin in the game. Well, should it be a fair tax, a flat tax, a goat tax, whatever. The simple fact is if we go back to the Constitution and we go back to where we had freedom and liberty and there was that organic growth in the economy to where you could do something outside the socialist greenhouse. Oh, I don't know, something stupid like a pet rock or Microsoft or Apple or Google. Do you think those would have grown in the socialist greenhouse? Do you think that in socialist country, you would have been able to go to someone and go, look, it's a pet rock. Isn't that cute? And I'm selling these for $5, $1, whatever, a ruble. First of all, they would all look at you like you're crazy because they're starving to death in this great utopian society that they've allowed to happen. They're waiting in line for toilet paper, and a pet rock is just the dumbest thing. But let's assume people thought, that's kind of cute, it actually made me laugh, and I don't get to laugh enough. I need one. Everything is controlled by the government. It's a greenhouse. So someone's going to come along and go, we don't need no stupid pet rocks in our economy. What the hell are you thinking? You're distracting from the people. They need to be working for themselves, the people, because that's how it's all marketed. It's the greater good. Well, what is the greater good? Well, you, the people. Well, good. If you want me to have greater good, leave me the F alone. Nope. You don't understand because you're stupid. So there would have been no pet rock. See, the beauty of the economy, if you study basic economics, is it's organic. If you live on an island, what is your economy? Anything you can find and eat, and any tool you might have to achieve that goal is your economy. Now, if another person gets stranded on that island who happens to know how to make things out of metal, and there's some metal on the island, and he makes a knife, and now you can carve it into a spear, now your economy is edged weapons, metalworking. So he goes, I'm going to make this knife. Oh, I got these coconuts. While you're doing that, I can do this, and I can get you some food so you can spend your time doing that. Oh, okay, that's a good deal. Now you have that economy. So it's organic. Some crazy, goofy college dropout says, I'm going to create Microsoft. Windows. Well, it started with DOS, but anyway, and everyone's like, okay, well, whatever. And then all of a sudden it changes things. And well, would he have got that past the committee? No, but it just happened because he was free to do it and no one cared. He's doing it in his garage. And all of a sudden, like Apple, they have this product. And you know what? Wozniak and Jobs actually worked for Atari when they created the Apple computer. They worked there and they took this idea to Atari because they worked for them and they said, look, we've created a personal computer. Isn't this cool? People can do this at home. Whatever it did back then, which wasn't a whole lot. And Atari said, nobody needs a personal computer. And they turned the idea down. They quit and started Apple. I think the clowns at Atari were wrong. See, but in an organic economy, they were able to just quit and go market it themselves and produce it themselves and make billions of dollars. Now, if that was a socialist economy and Atari was the government and Atari said no, or the government said no, you're not free to do it. That's the difference. So all you Apple people out there that love Apple and you love Google and think this is great, and I love Apple too. I just can't afford their products. It would not exist if you had the pipe dream that you're getting high and smoking. If there was socialism and Bernie Sanders got his way, and it would have happened 40 years ago, there would be no Microsoft. There would be no Apple. There would be no Google, no internet, none of this stuff. You wouldn't have your Android choice or your HTC choice or any of these choices. They would not exist. See, because in America, we were driving cars that rivaled the cars driven in Russia, because Russia had one car. I can't remember the name of it, but there was a joke in one of some thing I read one time by a Russian. He said, why does a Russian car have heated back windows? And you're like, well, because it snows or whatever. He said, because it makes it easier to push when the glass is warm. See, because the cars ran so badly. But it's not like Chrysler could go, oh, some guy, Chrysler-Vitsky or whatever his name is in Russia, go, I got a plan for a better car than that. This thing would have air conditioning and heated glass and all-wheel drive and traction and whatever. And the government's like, no, we control that. And we think this is all you need. It's a car. It goes from point A to point B. What do you need a convertible for? Oh, okay. Well, yeah, you're right, because you have all the guns and I sure as hell don't. So I guess we won't. And the proof of how badly it works, which was a good thing for America when we were in the war with Germany. Hitler had two associates that were working on airplanes. And one of them had actually invented the rocket engine and had a almost working prototype. And I don't remember all the details, but it's part of history, so just look it up. That had almost a prototype of a jet airplane. And one Hitler's better friends had the plane they were flying during the war. So the other guy said, we could really dominate the air with this. And Hitler said, no. That was it. End of story. No development, no Raytheon, no Northrop Grumman, no Motorola, no, just no. And so if, history tells us they lost the war. Now, historians and military historians will tell you, if they would have developed that other airplane, they would have had air superiority, and we probably would have never won that war. And it was only a 2-year window in there where that happened. But because he made a bad decision, which was good for us, we won the war and he lost it. But they were advanced enough to have air superiority. But because it was controlled by one guy, one mindset, one attitude, they lost. So that's how free markets work. They just grow organically, like that weird little tree on some island somewhere growing out of the side of the island, and it's just doing fine. Nobody would plant a tree there, but it grew there. And that's how the economy works. It's organic. So that's a little off topic, and I could go that way and probably bore you all to death with all these silly little ideas that I have. But the simple fact is, we have their game plan. We know their master plan. By looking at these things, we can help turn down the volume of the white noise and filter out to where we can get some information. And so when you look at every issue, you could probably boil them down to these 8 things, because trust me, this is their game plan. This is their rules. This is what they are doing to bring about socialism and destroy America. That is their plan. Now, if you can't accept that they have a plan, then you're an idiot and shouldn't be in the fight. But let's accept the fact that there are diametrically opposed people out there that want to destroy America. They might not even be Americans, but this is their plan because they hate us for whatever reason. Just like you might have an adversary in life that you never did anything to other than maybe one thing that you might have said possibly that they took offense to, and now they're your adversary and you don't even know why. But it happens, and all they're going to do every step of the game: control healthcare, control and raise debt, raise poverty levels, gun control, welfare, education, religion, class warfare. What's the argument about? Debate or debt. Okay, read what they said about debt. Oh, now we're talking about gun control because there was another mass shooting. Read what they say and how they're going to control gun control. Oh, we got some issues with Common Core. Education. Everything you see on Facebook and Twitter and social media is one of these 8 things. And that's how they're doing it. And if you sit there and go, oh, I wonder why, is like asking why one team wants to win the other one in the Super Bowl, because that's their plan. To sit there and go, well, if you control guns and you take away all our guns, then we could fall into communism. That's like saying, if he catches that pass, we'll lose the game. Of course, that's their game plan. You're in a battle for freedom and liberty. The founding fathers knew it, and they told us to always guard against this kind of thing. Protect your liberty. So it's out there. There is evil out there. They don't want you to know it. Oh, I wonder why. Because of religion. Remove the belief in God from government and schools. Well, I wonder why they're pushing this Common Core thing. How do I determine, I kind of like, Jeb Bush. He seems to be a nice guy. Seems to care. What about this Common Core? Oh, education. Take control of what people read and listen to. Take control of what children learn in school. Oh, okay. Got that one figured out. So if you buy into the bullshit, then you've just bought into one of their rules, one of their steps, one of their plans. So anything you see in social media, veterans, that's a big thing. All these things I'm seeing nowadays, they'll spend all this money for illegals, but they won't even take care of the veterans who fought and died for America. Why is it this way? Poverty. Yeah. Increase poverty levels so high that it's possible to control the people. So now, and it could also fall into welfare, and it could fall into class warfare. So, okay. That's what they're doing. Oh, now I understand. See, reading all this becomes kind of boring now because now I understand it. It's like, oh, that's really neat. And I'd like to click like and send a response. But the simple fact is, it's just part of the white noise. And it doesn't do any good because your friends are just passing the noise around. They're helping amplify it. It's not that it's wrong. I mean, it's nice to see all these issues. And if you just look at them and you took everything, let's see, if you just took every article and thing that you texted and shared and looked at and tweeted and Reddit it and whatever they call all that social movement, and you took the whole week and you boiled it down and put it in little piles and go, this has to do with this, and this has to do with this, and here's some guns, and here's some veterans, and here's some funny cat jokes, and boiled it down, the main issues would fall under these 8 things because that's the way it's set up. And they're important key issues, and they overlap into every other aspect of your life. So this is how you need to be a participant in the court of public opinion. And that's why I wanted to expand on that episode, because it doesn't just have to do with elections. And I know people, and I know even me, that I won't put the two together unless I link them and say, hey, this has to do with the court of public opinion. I wanted to expand on it. So we need to look at their game plan. Wow, Mark, how do we do that? It's so complicated. I'm busy. I mean, I have 2 jobs and 4 kids, and I'm working, and so does my wife. And I barely get, maybe an hour in a day to peruse the social media, and then I come home, and after the kids go to bed, I let the news wash over from, me for maybe an hour, and I watch my favorite program, and it's more of comedy, and then I'm done, and I'm beat. That's it. I go to bed and start over. Well, how do you do it? You just Google Saul Alinsky, SAULALINSKY, how to create a socialist state. Print it out and stick it on the wall, because you're an American. See, even though you're worn out and you're tired, you're not done fighting. The old quote that I had in one of my episodes that I just love is, upon the plains of hesitation lie the bones of countless millions who on the verge of victory laid down to rest and were overtaken. That's how it works. So I know you're tired. I'm tired. I don't have time to rub two nickels together half time, but we have to do it. And so we need to simplify it. We need to automate it. That's it. Do like Henry Ford, automate it. So you put these on your wall, and then you just read them and go, oh, that kind of has to do with this one. Number 4 is easy, gun control. And then if it's opposed to freedom and liberty and the Constitution, then it's been automated. I'm not going to like that. I'm not going to share it. I'm not going to tweet it. I'm not even going to buy into it. I don't believe in it. And in fact, I'm going to fight against that. They hate the NRA. The NRA fights for your freedom of the Second Amendment, which was created. The NRA was created to help black people get guns in America. I know a lot of racist people probably don't even know that, but it was created to help the slaves be able to protect themselves after the Civil War. That's how, that was its purpose. So when you're being the judge and you're going, this is admissible and this is not, try to look at it this way. If this debate on gun control, which is a debate on the Second Amendment, which is constitutional, would they fight the same way to destroy the First Amendment? Do we need a national registry of all the people that study journalism or writing in high school? I mean, come on, let's go to 18 years old. High school, college, junior college, maybe studying to be a writer, because you have freedom of speech. But, well, there should be some caveats there. I think you should have enough sense and maybe studied enough about journalism to where you understand hate speech and you don't offend people when you're talking. So I think there should, maybe you might not have to be licensed to post things on, Facebook and YouTube, but we should have a debate about that. Oh, you wouldn't hear that about free speech. No, because that's where the media, that's where they live. That's the slime they dwell in. So they don't ever want to see any of the same rules that they want to apply to the Second Amendment applied to the First Amendment. So, when somebody's spewing to you about, well, I don't mind if you buy a gun, as if it's any of their freaking business. But, I think that, people should at least have some basic training and understanding and safety and what guns are used for. And maybe if they have a purpose, like if they're into hunting or target shooting. Oh, okay. So now that you've said that with your First Amendment right, should I tell you the same thing? I don't mind that you have an opinion on what I'm doing, but I think that it would be nice before people just start a conversation that maybe they have a little bit of training on how to present an argument, maybe take a small journalism class, because it's for safety. Because if you say something that offends somebody, they might haul off and hit you, and you could cause a lot of problems, with people. And now, it's so complex. And so I think that, before you can exercise your first right, I think, well, first of all, you should at least fill out some form to where we know who you are and what you think and how you feel about these things, before we're going to let you actually talk to more than yourself about this. Say, oh, no, that would never happen. So if you need a way to go, oh, are they just spinning this? Would they be fighting it the same way if it had to do with them? Oh, no. See, then now you know. And you're like, oh my God, it's so complicated. Do I vote for this Yahoo or that Yahoo? Do I buy this or that? Do I, whatever. All the decisions we make. Because when you're driving, you make about 300 decisions a minute or something crazy like that. Just go to your How to Create a Socialist State by Saul Alinsky. and read it and go, oh, wow, yeah, that has to do with welfare. Why would they do that? Oh, welfare. It sounds so good. Oh, we're helping the poor people. Why did you create welfare, Mr. Government? Oh, to take control of every aspect of their life. Food, housing, income. Oh, so it's not warm and fuzzy? No, it's to take control. Well, you don't care that kids are going hungry? No, to take control. We created the hunger. Oh, through poverty. Yeah, them greedy rich people, right? No, we, the government, created poverty. Why'd you do that? To increase the poverty levels as high as possible. Poor people are easier to control, and they won't fight back, stupid. It's like, oh, well, poverty's horrible. I don't like seeing poor people. Well, we created it because it's easier to fight them. So we like poor people. Oh, wow. Well, if the debt ceiling wasn't, being raised, and maybe if we could get debt into control or allow the government to spend more money, then we could help the poor and those on welfare. No, we're increasing the debt limit to unsustainable levels. That way we're able to increase taxes, and this will produce more poverty. Once again, more control. Oh, well, I thought it was an important issue, debt ceiling and the debt clock and all that. Yeah, to all you plebes down there, sure it is. But no, we're going to increase it more because it creates more poverty. It destroys the middle class and therefore creates more welfare. Oh, well, what about education? Maybe if we just paid teachers more, we'd have better education. It's like, oh, okay. So the politicians go, yeah, we're taking control of what people read and listen to. And by doing that, we control what kids learn and how they think in school. Oh, well, more money would make that great. It's like, no, we already got control of that. We just want more money for the schools because it increases the debt limit, which kills the middle class, which creates more poverty and welfare. No, in fact, we want to control your children so that way when they come out of college, they are on our side. And they think these 8 things are just a great idea. Because we don't read it to them this way like Saul Alinsky wrote them. Oh, how do you sell that to the American people? Well, there's people they can't afford that. Healthcare's expensive, Oh, so you care? Yes, I care a lot. I care about controlling healthcare. Oh, wow, look at all them poor people. Do you care about poverty? Oh, yes. Poverty is one of the greatest blights on the American landscape. When you just look at America, the richest nation in the world, and you go, why is there poverty? Oh, so maybe we should pay more taxes. That would be great because we're at war with poverty. Did you know that? It's our goal to stamp out poverty. Oh, what did you say about gun control? Well, this is just horrible. I mean, there's our children are being killed. Oh, like in Chicago? No, they're in school. We have gun-free zones to protect them. It's all about your protection. And it's them over there at the NRA. It's their fault. They'll tell you, oh, it's horrible. How many more of these slaughters do we have to see before you let me take your gun so I can keep you from fighting the government? Oh, quite a few more, actually. So this is how you have to, what's the old expression? Read between the lines. So when a politician goes, oh, class warfare, them damn rich people. I mean, I'm not saying me because I'm a rich person. No, them damn rich people. The 1, 5, 10%ers, them. Now we're going to tax you if you make over 100,000 a year, but no, them, we're going to call it them damn rich people. Okay, great. So we're going to divide them into wealthy and poor and see, now you're poor. Oh, I wondered what the hell was going on. So I'm poor. So then I can go stand over here on the moral high ground? Yes, you can, buddy. Oh, but I know that guy. He's not that rich. He's rich. Oh, well, F him too. I don't know. I can't explain it enough that they have a game plan and we actually know it, which is just totally cool. Ask any military guy. If you knew exactly what your enemy was going to do tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., would you be prepared for it or would you just be sitting around drinking coffee waiting for it to happen? And they will tell you, no, we would be all up on that at 4:30 before they have their coffee and do their plan. We're going to skip coffee break and kick their butt at 4. So that's kind of how I wanted to maybe sum up, this 8 steps to a socialist state. Have a great day. Enjoy the apocalypse.